Good evening. Welcome to all of you from around the world. I'm really thrilled to be here with all of you. My name is Wendy Cadge, and on behalf of all of us at the Chaplaincy Innovation Lab, we're really thrilled to sponsor this webinar, Case Studies in Buddhist Chaplaincy with the International Center for Chinese Buddhist Culture and Education. We spent a lot of time with the lab focusing on chaplaincy in the US, and we're really eager to expand that conversation and hear about how spiritual care has long existed and is developing in new and different ways around the world. And to begin that conversation today, I'm happy to be here with colleagues, I hope soon to be friends, to have a beginning part of that conversation. Michael?
Thank you very much, Wendy. Let me just offer two reminders before we get started. First, like all of our webinars, this is being recorded. And so if you need to leave early or if you miss a point that you'd like to come back to, don't worry, you will get a link to that recording in the next couple of days and you can watch it whenever you like. When you get the email that has that link, you'll have a chance to fill out a very brief survey right there. Literally, it takes maybe a minute or two at the very most. So please do fill that out. That helps us plan future webinars. So with that, let me introduce today's speakers and we'll turn it over to them. We start with Venerable Guan Jun, who is co-founder and general secretary of the International Center of Chinese Buddhist Culture and Education. Ray Xiong He, who is deputy CEO of the Su She Foundation. Dong Wei, professor of philosophy and director of the International Center for Buddhist Studies at Renmin University of China. Jue Xiao, who is deputy director of the volunteer committee of the Chinese Association for Life. And then finally, we are joined by Scarlett Tong Suo, who is a volunteer at the Beijing Xiyun Center and is our interpreter for today. So thank you very much, Scarlett, for your service. Guan, I'll turn it to you.
All right, thank you, Michael. So basically, I would like to give you a very brief introduction about our center. So International Center of Chinese Buddhist Culture and Education was originally founded in 2014 during August, and was proposed by the Venerable Master Chao Din, Venerable Master Chuan Yin, Venerable Master Ben Xin. Venerable Master Chao Din was originally from southern part of Taiwan and has been since 1970s reside in Los Angeles. And Venerable Chuan Yin came from Philippines. Venerable Ben Xin came from southern part of China, which is close to my hometown. And he's the elder of Huzhou Kaiyan Temple, also now the elder of the Guanghua Temple. He is also the dean of the Hujian Buddhist Academic. And also I was honored and grateful that these senior monks and also one senior nun, Venerable Master Jin Fa from Vietnam, they were encouraging me to create this organization as to, spreading or introducing Chinese Buddhism to the United States, or also internationally wide. The mission of the organization, one of the main organization's purpose is to introducing Chinese Buddhism also to make mutual understanding between Theravada Mahayana Buddhism, and also we develop Buddhist chaplaincy in accordance with the Buddhist teachings. Mainly we do ordain lay Buddhist ministers who are interested in Buddhist chaplaincy in the United States. So we have ordained so far 34 lay Buddhist ministers who have been working in military, also healthcare system. Some were, or a couple of them I believe was working with the Red Cross. And we have since then encouraged our ordained to participate in multicultural, multi-religion dialect. We also encouraging to keep their own tradition practice, meanwhile to learn from others. Michael, that's what I have.
Thank you very much, Juan, for that introduction to the center and for everything that you're doing there. Why don't we turn now to Professor Wei, who can tell us a bit more about chaplaincy and spiritual care in China today.
Yes. Yeah, hello. Sorry.
For some reason, why I don't see everyone's face.
Yeah, hello everyone. Yes, I'm happy. Yeah, recent years, China Chinese, more and more Chinese pay more attention to the spiritual care and the hospice care. Yeah, in 2015, there is a diet quality all over the world. The China is number 75. The Taiwan is number 5. Yeah, so it's very different. So I think there is a great space in the field. So recent years, some civil organization organized many activities to push it. And this year, in the last 2 months, I joined 2 conferences. One is the Tsinghua Forum of Tsinghua Zhongyuan Luantan, Tsinghua Ghost Festival Forum. Yeah, that means Zhongyuan means the 15th day of lunar July. Yeah, this is the day in China. It is a ghost day. So they are in the ghost day to do a forum to focus on the issue of hospice care. So I joined it. And in the 2 weeks ago, there is another meeting that is Chinese medicine humanities. Chinese medicine humanities. There are more than 400 people. Chiefly, they are doctors, nurses somehow joined it. So I joined the 2 conferences and introduced my understanding about the spiritual care from the perspective of philosophy, especially Chinese traditional philosophies and cultures. So that's my my parts. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you, Professor Wei. Ray Sheng, let's turn to you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone, for giving me the chance to sharing the foundation, CG. Since we have 4 missions, charity, medicine, education, and humanity, we've been largely engaged in different emergency relief work. So emergency relief caring, especially psychological caring, is also our concern. So we devote a lot of time and in those in the relieving work. And the way we relieve those victims and survival is by to invite them to join the relief work. And by giving to the other victims, they are going to transcend their suffering. That's the way we are doing. I might have a chance to introduce this ideal and model a little bit. And the secondary, we have a medical mission. We have 8 hospitals in Taiwan, and also we have free training over 40 countries. So we a lot of devotion on the medical spiritual care, especially in hospital, hospice caring. And it's a very important program for Tzu medical mission. Also, we have a so-called Sanamanta, which is a cadaver system that the people donate their body after their death, and by giving their body, the students and the doctors also undergo some kind of spiritual transcendence, especially for the student and for the parents. So it's a very comprehensive program for the Buddhist education and for the medical education, not only take care of the physical body, but also spiritual transcendence. So that's what we are doing so far. And so charity, medicine, education, all devote to this kind of spiritual caring. So today I'm very glad to share with you and also learn from you guys. We are also organize different programs for this kind of caring system, and hopefully that we can have a sharing and exchange program in due course. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ray Sheng. Joy and Scarlett, let's turn to you.
抱歉啊，我那个英文水平比较差，我还要请佐彤来为大家翻译哈。有劳佐彤了。首先我想介绍一下我们所在的这个中国生命关怀协会哈。中国生命关怀协会呢，它就是为那个关怀临终患者来为目的的这样的一个协会。可以请佐彤给我们介绍一下哈。佐彤，佐彤你在吗？
She stuck. I think she got some problem on the internet.
好像在网络不好。
Yeah.
对，稍等一下。
We'll wait just a moment here.
佐彤，你听得见吗？
你们能听到我吗？
哦，
可以听到。
可以的。
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Great. My
可
internet's
以
a
跟
little
大家介绍
spotty.
一下中国生命关怀协会。谢谢。
So very happy to introduce our organization, which is the Chinese Association for Life. I think it's very interesting to hear about what Professor Wei and Mr. He were talking, about the sort of on a macro level, what's going on in mainland China, and also like specifically what people are doing in Taiwan. So we're happy to offer more of a sort of on the ground experience in mainland China, what people are doing. The CLC is a national nonprofit social organization. It also reports directly to China's National Health Commission, and we advocate very actively for what we call life care as an umbrella term, but mostly on palliative and hospice care.
那么我们中国生命关怀协会哈有56个工作站，有10万个志愿者。
56 centers, volunteer centers under the association, and over 100,000 volunteers across the country.
那么我们的这个团队哈，主要就是围绕着家人、病人和家属进行服务的。那个团队的成员呢，有医生啦、社工啦，还有就是那个信息护理师、心理师，还有法律咨询团队。 包括那个助念团、志愿者这些。
Our center, Beijing Tsuyan Center, is based primarily in Beijing. We have 215 volunteers registered with us. We have served over 100 patients. We are a very integrated team, working very closely with patients and their families. And our team members include social workers, psychotherapists, medical professionals, spiritual care providers. We also have a support chanting group that's very much a Buddhist specialty. We work collectively to make sure that patients and families receive the help they need whether when they're in pain or when they're moving towards the end of life.
那么我们就是引导和支持整合不同的群体和机构等社会资源，来高效的、理性的去参与生命关怀的志愿服务，并且我们也进行了一些生命教育的培训。 临终关怀的公益活动。
We see it as our mission and our goal to compile various resources from society and to encourage people from different walks of life to really pay attention to the topic of palliative and hospice care and participate in any way they can. And you know, we have done some significant work making sure that patients and their families receive the help that they need.
包括我们在教育方面哈，在跟中国人民大学国际佛学研究中心哈魏老师这里设立了生命关怀课程课题的那个研究专项基金，然后也邀请了正观法师，还有台湾生死学那个台湾的南华大学的生死学教授蔡昌雄教授等，然后我们进行了一些生命关怀的培训。
Education is another thing that we focus very heavily on, not just to raise public awareness, but to actually train chaplains and spiritual care providers who then can volunteer with our organizations. So today you see Professor Wei Zedong and Venerable Jing Guan, who have helped us organize but also teach in some of our training courses, both basic and intermediate level, for thousands of volunteers. Who I think there is this general trend of people who were increasingly curious and about life care, and they hope to learn more about it and be trained. We also actually set up a fund to specifically support research and teaching of spiritual care at Renmin University, where Professor Wei teaches. And besides Guan and Professor Wei, we also work with Professors Cai Chengxiong and Cai Zhiling from Taiwan's Nanhua University, among many other experts, both in China and the US, to make sure that our students get a broad view of what's going on, not just in China, but in the world.
在刚刚结束的10月30号吧，我们结束了第2期的中级班的培训，然后总共培养了大概有初级班加中级班加起来大概有4000多人了。
This past Sunday on the 30th, we finished the second session of our intermediate training course. So in total, counting both basic and intermediate level students, we have trained more than 4,000 students in China.
还有要跟大家就是特别介绍一下的，就是我们今年的6月份到9月份的3个月哈，我们有35位同学接受了临床心性护理培训第1单元的实习的培训。
The highlight of our recent education offering is from this past June to September, we have a cohort of 35 students graduating from the first unit of their CPE internship.
并且获得了中国人民大学国际佛学研究中心的结业证书。
Their certificates of completion from Renmin University of China's International Center for Buddhist Studies.
这次35名同学的这个导师啊，主要就是天文法师、龙云法师和王小溪老师。
The faculty for the CPE training this time are Venerable Tianwen, Venerable Long Yun, and Miss Xiaoxi Wang.
最后还要介绍一下，就是我们从19年的10月份开始，正观法师呢就给我们定期进行案例的辅导。
And since October 2019, Venerable Jing Guan has been coaching us and helping us specifically with a lot of the cases with our patients, guiding us through how to better serve them.
比如说在案例 L 的这个案例中，法师在法师的指导下，我们跟一个临终的患者实现了患者的很多愿望，比如跟妻子共度最后的时光， 然后回家过新年，然后用视频的方式为母亲庆祝生日，并且用了一些佛教的忏悔法门，并且他实现了在工作站助念团的帮助下念佛往生这些愿望。
For example, in one of the case studies, Venerable Jingguan guided us to help this patient who also had quite a few wishes that we were able to help fulfill, including saying goodbye to his wife, going back home to celebrate New Year, celebrating his mother's birthday through video chat. We also incorporate Buddhist rituals and ideas. So he was able to confess in the Buddhist fashion, and he also passed away with the help of the support chanting group affiliated to our center.
好，我的介绍就暂时到这儿，感谢。
That's our introduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive overview of everything that you are doing, and the amount of training and the comprehensiveness of the training is really interesting. You mentioned CPE, you mentioned certificates of completion, and I see there's a question from the audience that it lines up with a question that I have, which is, for Chinese Buddhist chaplains, could you explain in sort of general terms, what is the process to become a chaplain? In the United States, depending on where you are working, there can be a very formal process to become a chaplain. What does that look like for Chinese Buddhist chaplains? And that's for any of you, all of you, whoever.
小姐 Go ahead.
这个我来说哈，对，那个我们现在在国内哈，应该是还没有宗教师的这种那个资格认证的。那么我们对
In mainland China, there hasn't been official certification for chaplains.
对，我们现在呢，只是就是那个在正观法师、龙云法师等这些宗教师的帮助下，然后进行一些就是按照 CPE 的这套模式的第一单元来进行培训。
Of CPE chaplains and chaplaincy educators like Venerable Jingguan or Venerable Longyun, we're training our students in China based on the standards and curriculum of CPE in the US.
对，那么我们正在努力在国内哈，在中国大陆看看有没有这样的一个机构能够帮助我们实现这样的一个资格认证的这个系统。
We're hoping and working actively to hopefully collaborate with an organization in China who hopefully will soon be able to certify chaplains in China.
I think I would like to add in something to Mr. Xiao regarding the program and how the whole process of CPE was laid out in China. Michael, apparently, I have to say that's culturally very different people towards chaplaincy. What is chaplaincy exactly? And this also has been a question in the United States as well. So regarding the training, the model we are adopting now is that the CP program we have, such as Mr. Xiao inviting, we got a meeting with chaplains from the Stanford Healthcare. So we invite 3 of them to lead out first CP unit. It's a try to see how that would work out for Chinese people to accept the program. And originally I was trying to sit in the class, observe how that would be for the develop in terms of the cultural difference. But I wasn't able to sit in, so due to my own schedule and other schedules. So I had very little to say how that program has been running, but from the feedback, I can see it's quite successful so far. And For the, I think the process of board certification or other programs, so far we already had a framework dating out there. For example, Professor Wei was waiting to open the educational program. Doing the board certification, not exactly board certification, but that I consider it's the very beginning of the board certification processing, combined it with the Chinese Association for Life Care. And these two organizations are very authoritarian in their education, in care providing for healthcare system, and also for the academic education. So I can see, Mr. Xiao, definitely I can see we don't have to look in outside other organizations. Already the framework is already there. Professor Wei, do you want to add in something more? Yeah.
Yeah, I think China is very different with the United States, and I think with all the world. One side, I think most of the Chinese generally about at least 70% Chinese told us they are not religious. They are not religious. What are they? That's a question. Somehow they are atheist, but I think most of them are folk believers. Folk believers. So this is one question. So if we study, if we learn from the chaplaincy of based on Buddhism, Christianity, or somehow, yeah, actually there are only few Chinese suitable for this system. This is one question. Another question is religion. Religion, even spiritual, spiritual religion. These terms are very sensitive in China. Recent 10 years, we are in a new era. You know, we are in a new era. The new era is different with the past era. So I give you an example. Yeah, there was a Buddhist there was a small Buddhist hall, in a hospital at Xiamen City, Fujian province, but it was stopped in the spring, in this spring. Yeah, there are some new policies. I think there's a very strong secularization today. So if we do something, we cannot do anything related to religion, spirituality at hospitals. So that's the reality we faced. So recently, my job, in this year is to create a new words. I create a new term to express the spiritual care. I called it mind nature's care. Mind nature's care. In China, mind nature is a core concept of Chinese traditional philosophies, including Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism, all use the term. The basic meaning is clear your mind and see your nature. Yeah, see your nature. So practice, cultivate your mind, practice your nature. So the mind nature's care may transcend the limitation of religion. Yeah, it includes religion and non-religion. So maybe so in the last several months, I used the words to do several lectures. Yes, I think some. Yeah, at least Miss Xiao, Xiao and some people accepted the term, and some doctors and the nurse think this is a good word in China today. So I think maybe we need to do something from the basic concept, step by step. Thank you, Guan Zheng.
Yeah, and I would like to add in something more regarding the cultural difference. I mean, I come from southern part of China, so my memory from my childhood to until my adulthood, that religion is very strong in the area, especially the folk religion. But southern part of China, such as Fujian province, Canton, the folk religion also relate to Buddhism. And I've been testing it out in my clinical chaplaincy at Stanford Healthcare. I met several migrants from Canton area, also my hometown area. They when they see me, still there's religion components, even they don't specifically, attach to one specific religion, but definitely Buddhism and also local folk religions still very strong in them. And definitely I agree with the Professor Wei, northern part. I was in Beijing and for years. Also, there's a lot of Buddhists too, a lot of Christian too, a lot of folk religion too. I do believe that's because some sort of policy also, the Confucian culture or Chinese culture has been not really emphasized on the using of the religion term, but in practice, there it is. And that's what I'm trying to say. But when I look at the United States, there's different organizations providing CP training, such as from churches, from interfaith groups, from the not church, not interfaith group too. So possibly in China in the future, the chaplaincy might go in diversified as well. So that's why I try to get in. Mr. Xiao, do you have something to add in? 小姐，
有什么可以添加？我想就是在我们这3年来的工作站的一些服务当中，哈，其实我们去临终关怀的一些患者，并不一定就是有宗教的，或者有宗教的不一定就是佛教的，但是我觉得我们是只要是人类哈，它就一定有灵性，或者是叫有心性，那么比如说一个我现在没有办法展示 PPT 哈，就是比如说有最近我们刚结束的一个案例哈，他就是一个100岁老人，然后他有73岁的党龄，那么但是我们也可以，就是他只要是有人，他是人，他就有灵性，那么我们一样是可以提供这种心性的关怀的。这是我这么认为的哈，
Based on our 3 years of experience since the founding of the center, and looking at the patients that we have served, many of them either didn't have any religious faith, or they had a religious faith that's different from Buddhism. But something that we found out is, regardless of their religion or their current state of mind, they're all human beings, and they all have hearts, and they have spirituality in them, and that means they all need the care that we could provide, and we actually can help them very effectively. One example is just recently, we helped a lady who was over 100 years old, and she had been a member of the Chinese Communist Party for over 73 years. And it was a fact that she was very proud of. So we actually celebrated the CCP centennial with her in her palliative care unit. And with our help, she eventually passed away very peacefully. And again, I think it proves that there are many ways that we could help people, whether it's somebody without faith or whether it's through an interfaith approach, because every human being, has spirituality in them, and our approach could be effective to essentially everyone when adopted correctly and with experience.
所以我认为就是这种心性关怀或者叫灵性关怀哈，应该是超越了宗教的，或者是跨宗教的，或者是超越宗教的。我认为只要是人，他肯定是有灵性的他就有灵性的需求。
So it is our belief that every human being has spiritual needs, and spiritual care is not just interfaith, but really should transcend any faith or spirituality. It's really for everybody.
That's such an interesting example of what you just said of this person that wanted to celebrate the centenary of the CCP, and that was their way of being ministered to from a spiritual care provider. That's such an interesting example because I think in the US, chaplains do often come up against a similar challenge of they may come across someone who does not especially identify as a person of faith, or they are actively atheist, humanist, whatever. And so they're not always sure exactly how a chaplain can help them. Or if a chaplain introduces themselves, they might think, well, what can you do for me? I'm not a person of faith. That is such a fascinating example of how a chaplain was able to really help someone in a very meaningful way, even though there was no faith or spirituality involved. I would like to ask a little bit about where exactly Chinese, I'm sorry, Rayshon, you have your hand up. I'll stop rambling. You're muted still.
Yeah, maybe I should follow up this issue, how the we so-called spiritual caring, or as Professor Wei Dedong say, the mind nature caring is across the different religion, across the nationality, and across cultural. So I'm not sure that is appropriate time. I show my PowerPoint for you. That's exactly the case Tzu Chi doing over 126 countries. So it's not only limited to Chinese ethnic, actually this kind of spiritual caring has crossed over different nations and cultures and religion. So Michael, do you think it's okay? I continue my sharing? Okay.
Of course.
So let's get started a little bit about the my PowerPoint right here. I hope that you can see this. Okay. Yeah, so everybody can see my PowerPoint, right?
Yes.
Right?
Very good.
Okay. So Tzu Chi Foundation is the founder, Dharma Master Zheng Yan. It's been 55 years. We have a charity, medicine, education, humanity, etc. And our charity work has been over 126 countries and regions. We believe we have 500,000 over the charity volunteers worldwide. Actually, we don't have a specific certified chaplain. We are Buddhist based, but those volunteers is some kind of chaplain characteristic, because they provide psychological relieving to those victims and survivors by the concept of give selfless and giving with gratitude. I shared some story for you guys. So yeah, we believe that is always impermanent. So the giving grief, especially give with gratitude, and that will be provide some kind of profoundly relief for those people who lost their love or who encounter this kind of difficulties. And there's one volunteer, Mrs. Shea, and he was a volunteer of Tzu Chi, and she lived in the middle of Taiwan. And one day he woke up in the morning and to prepare the breakfast for the children. So she went to the washroom while the water basin suddenly exploded, and the main artery on her neck was cut by a fragment, and she was bleeding profusely, lying in a pool of blood. And her daughter, who was still in the junior high school, and rode a bicycle, in a panic to ask for help. Unfortunately, Mrs. Shea passed away in the ambulance half hour later. So Mrs. Shea was nearly 40 years old at the time. And she had she's one boy and 2 girls. And her husband was a member of Tzu Chi as well. And since Mrs. Shea signed her consent to be a donor with her body, so her family did not have the time to move. And instead, the body was sent to Tzu Chi Hospital to join an ongoing anatomy surgical simulation of the Tzu Chi Medical School. So traveling for more than 10 hours from the west to the east coast in Taiwan, to Tzu Chi Hospital in the ambulance. And the journey is like, both sad and sacred for the family. And this was a journey of the mother's solemn life. So the father led the family in escorting the mother, in crossing, the Zigaz road to Hualien, and finally make it to participate in the general assimilation operations. And the participants were all university professors. And Mrs. Shea had in fact become the teacher's teachers, with the care and accompaniment of Tzu Chi volunteers all the way. The father and the children were able to retrain their grief. This is one scene of the Sanamanta, and they have the bow to the body, and they have to carefully take care of the body, eventually sew inches to inch to keep the body intact. So the day after the operation, whether the Mrs. Shea donated her body and the simulation operation being finished, the whole family went to the steel thought boat, and the eldest girl in college, the son in high school, and the youngest girl in junior high, led by the father, attended the volunteers' morning gathering that held by Dharma Master Zheng Yan at the abode. So the son was in high school, a very young boy, and spoke with calm determination. It's very unusual. He was very calm, although he choked, slightly. He said, "Mother has become a Bodhisattva. We wish her could to go without worry toward another life." The master say, the rear foot should follow the front foot in stepping forward. I will miss my mother, but we will also take good care of ourselves. We study well and grow up, and do not worry, mother. So as a young boy can, present in this way after he lost his beloved mother. So that's the way, by giving love to the others, the whole family transcend their spirit and their mind. So giving itself creates a tremendous power to the healing for suffering. So Miss Shea's donation keep the spirit of the whole family strong. Instead of weeping at home, they were eager to support life. They are going to support the student and support the doctors to do the simulation operation in order to save more patients. So that's altruism, that's compassion. Even though you pass away, you'll have compassion, altruism. And that kind of devotion transcend all families' spirit. So that's the sentimental program. The anatomy simulation aim to save life. So at the donation, the body, the whole family experience this kind of transcendence. So that's I mentioned and exemplify the ideal of Tzu Chi Foundation that give selflessly, generate an effect of healing for the suffering soul. And when you mention the people may not be Buddhist, like this one, Miss Liu Shunzheng, she was not a Buddhist. She is traditional, Tao and mixed up Buddhism. Actually, she cannot consider religious people. And she stayed in hospital ward of Tzu Chi Dalian Hospital before she passed away. It's it was so-called Lotus World. Actually, it's a hospice caring at the time. So she would say she had a fear of facing the lonely to be died. So she said, in these few days, I have learned about life and death. There's nothing wrong for me saying that. Close your eye and then you are gone, just like a full sleep. But I feel the most terrible part is that probably with no one beside me at the last moment. We interviewed with her. She is not Tzu Chi member. She's not Buddhist. Before she donated her body, she feel sorrow, lonely, and some kind of fear inside her mind. But after she was permitted to donate her body, her whole mentality changed. She feel bliss. She woke up in the morning and pray for Buddha, and she dreamed about the Bodhisattva. She was undergo that kind of spiritual transcendence. She feel full of love around her. She feel that everybody love her around. And before she donated the body, she feel fear and lonely and feel not to be loved enough. But after she donated the body, got permission to donate the body, after she received the permission, her mentality changed a lot. So it's very interesting that she was not a Buddhist, but with the giving, selfless giving, compassion, altruism, she transcends her spirit. So that's the idea that when you're talking about the chaplaincy, the mind nature or the spiritual care, I think Tzu Chi's model provide an alternative healing. The healing is not from our word, it's not only from our companion, but from encouraging them to give to the others. So that's the very important philosophy when we cope with the life and death. And back at this gentleman in Sri Lanka after the tsunami in 2004, he lost his 5 members of family, wife, children, all gone. Only he left. So in 1 week, he was not want to eat. He did not want to talk. He did not want to sleep. He was just stuck, emptiness. So one volunteer, came to him. She has no response. So eventually, this gentleman in the middle, she sent a song to this Abdullah. He is Muslim. He's the brothers, Ling, the middle one, sent a song to this Abdullah, because a man sent a song to another man is odd. So Abdullah left. So our volunteer bring a cup of soup to Abdullah. When he sipped 1 and sipped 2, and Abdullah was all of a sudden crying, and we bless him. But the very next day is that we invited him to become volunteers in a free clinic to help him, the villagers, the survivors. And a few days later, Abdullah can smile and recharge himself. So by helping others, we are able to transcend our suffering. Maybe the final story is like this. I hope that this is in Chinese, but I can introduce to you, but I play the video as well. And this lady, she lost her beloved daughter in the Sichuan earthquake. And that's adorable daughter, only 7 years old. And when they dig out her body, they cannot find her head. You can see how sorrow this mother has been. So she cannot eat, she cannot talk. Only thing that she can do is to write a letter, write many letters, try to send a letter to her daughters. So this volunteer accompanied with her and read his letter. And there's one sentence written by this mother, say, my daughter would like to help in others. So our volunteer encouraged her to do the hot meal with the Tzu Chi volunteers. You can accomplish your daughter's wish. Now she passed away. And you are the one that can replace her to do good thing to the village and to the survivors. So the mother was encouraged. And then she engaged in the volunteer work, like cooking meal and to the recipient and to many survivors. And a few days later, when interviewed with this young mother, she can smile. Why? Because helping others will transcend your suffering and your own soul. So it's not only individuals' compassion. We saw everybody got Buddha nature, got compassion in nature. So this kind of story tells us that's Buddhist ideal to believe that Buddha nature in everyone, not only for Buddhists, but for everyone. Or we so-called mind nature, as the Vedanta professor saying this. Look, she can smile. So I think that's the philosophy and the practical evidence that provide and execute by Tzu Chi. I think it's also fulfilled the philosophy of Vygotsky and Pierre Bourdieu. I'm going to say in that later, if we have time to have a more discussion. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Wei Sheng. Those were wonderful stories that you shared with us. Thank you. I want to give just a couple of moments here at the very end. We have a couple of questions from the audience, and so I want to spend some time on that. Guan, I think this question may be for you, but of course anyone can answer. But we have a number of Buddhist chaplains here, American Buddhist chaplains, other Buddhist chaplains. And this person says, is there any difference between the Buddhist, any difference in training, I think, between the Buddhist chaplains who are trained in the US versus those who are trained in China? That's a really interesting comparative training question. So what's the difference?
Michael, that's a really good question, and I still try to figure it out. Since I hear from Mr. Xiao and Dong Wei, it sounds very different. And also mentioned about chaplaincy in Northern American people. When you see a chaplain, they realize, oh, you were sent by the church, right? You were sent by the church to the chapels of patients. For example, if patients were asking, oh, chaplain, which church you come from? So that's very clear in their mind. Chaplain represent a very particular religions. And that, of course, that you do interface, you supporting humanity, you helping doing emotion and mental support for the patients as well. But that's also social work and specialists can do in this. And back to you, Michael, the training here in the United States clearly requires you to be belong to a particular religion, right? If you're a Buddhist chaplain, you have to have a tradition. You have to be ordained as a Buddhist minister because you are ministering to the patient, represent the minister presence of your religion. But meanwhile, you support different faith traditions as well. It kind of like very different, but it sounds like in China, since there's a great portion of patients that no religion preference, especially, I mean, no religion preference in the United States has very different meaning. People might not feel affiliated with the church, right? But they still reading Bible, they still doing daily prayers, they still meditate, but they just don't feel affiliated with the religion. So they call themselves no religion reference. But people would say no religion. Probably that's different from no religion preference, right? I'm no religion. And my experience from the United States, if you go into a patient's room and he told me, oh, no, I have no religion. I don't need a chaplain, right? If that nothing related to medical, I'd rather take some time rest. So they would tell you directly. So it seems like, because like I said, I was trying to sit in CP first training unit with the people come from Stanford Healthcare. I introduced them to give the classes, but I wasn't able to because of my own schedule and also their schedule. So I'm trying to figure out how that differs the culturally. But regarding the training program, definitely it sounds like there's a very different, defined in chaplaincy in China and in the United States, like I expressed. And it sounds to me, Michael, here, it sounds to me chaplaincy or either Buddhist chaplaincy. Of course, there's different Buddhist organizations and Buddhist college might develop Buddhist chaplains based on Buddhology, right? And Christians or church might develop their chaplaincy based on the theological or practical theology. Could be in a different diversified way, like I said. And people who feel, you know, I'm beyond religion, I do emotion and spiritual support, like a social work, definitely they can do that way too, right? We're open to variety, we're open to possibility, we're open to humanity in all ways. And the other thing I look at that, it seems to me the development in China now, the position is more like a spiritual coordinator position. What do you think, Michael, in this sense? If you look at the quality of chaplain must be the ministry of presence, right? For example, Christian chaplain, they were the ministry of presence or Holy Spirit, right? The God. And when I did pray with the Catholic patients, I was so moved by that devotion to the Holy Spirit. They were crying and wholeheartedly into that presence of the Holy Spirit. And that was the process of healing, sustained spiritual growth. And some of them, when they were in the dying process, they do confession with the Father. That's the Holy Spirit presence of redemption, right? And those Professor mentioned about the transcendence of the world, that was so beautiful to me. I mean, but definitely, like I said, there's a different variety ways can be developed. And I'm so happy that Mr. Xiao and Professor Wei, they have been finding a really meaningful way to develop this program to assist people really need. And they've been showing me the possibility for diversity, also the possibility for serving humanity with a certain context. So that's beautiful, but definitely culturally different, Michael. I'm still trying to figure it out.
I think we all are.
Right.
And I really appreciate, Professor Wei, this mind-nature concept. I think that I'm sure that there are some similarities with the way that chaplains approach people in the United States. But that's such an interesting concept. And so I hope that we can kind of keep an eye out on that and see how that develops, because I know that that could really be of a lot of benefit to American chaplains. I see we're right here at the top of the hour, and I know there are questions we didn't get to. I'm very sorry, everybody, but we do need to be conscious of everyone's time, especially our colleagues across the ocean for whom it is now 11 o'clock at night, as opposed to those of us just getting the day started here in the US. So thank you all so much for your time, for your expertise, for your generosity and wisdom. This has been just a wonderful experience, and I really hope this is the beginning of a new relationship. So thank you all very much for being with us, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Michael, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.